Are you going to say kick it? You didn't say that last couple episodes.
Kick it.
That's so enthusiastic.
All right, welcome to another episode of Hardheaded. I'm your host, Matt Amos. With me, as always, Chet Sears and Troy Trussell. Coming to you live from the Trussell studio there in Wichita, Kansas, and me from somewhere in the United States, undisclosed location. Today we're going to be talking about the election and how it's heating up, and we're just a few short weeks away from what some say could be the end of our country as we know it. So we're going to talk about that. We got top 3 hunting goofs or blunders that we've made in the field, and then who's got the good word today? Do we know?
Troy does.
T-Dog.
Troy's got the good word, so Troy's going to take us out with the good word. But
T-Dog.
so anyway, lots of stuff going on in the news. I haven't paid too much attention to the politics because I'm really impressed right now with Elon Musk and capturing that rocket, which has been pretty awesome.
I'm beginning to be more and more an Elon fan, and I'll tell you why.
I like Elon.
I was not a Tom Brady fan until I watched that 30 for 30 episode with him talking about the 2 things in that episode that kind of opened me up. One was how he was, picked on the last day or whatever, and he got emotional still talking about it, even though he's won all these Super Bowls since then. And he talked to Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, and he said, "I guarantee you will never regret the day that you drafted me." And, he cashed that check. And then the other thing that he said was to Drew Bledsoe was, I love you, man. I love you, Drew. But if you ever get hurt, you're never going to play again. Not here, And I'm like, somewhat arrogant statements, but to hear that he said that on the back end, like he delivered.
And he backed him up, yeah.
And Elon, like 8-10 years ago, Matt, you probably know more about this than me, but he's like, the best thing that we can do is to catch this rocket. And I don't know if we can do it, but it's really hard, but we're going to try.
We're going to try.
Yeah. And here we are like 8 years from then, and he's catching rockets out of the sky. It's crazy. And he's like, oh, it's going to be really hard to create an automotive company, but I'm going to do it, and he's just delivering on doing hard things. He knows how hard they are, and he's like, I'm going to go try to do it anyway. And he's doing it, which is pretty awesome. I also want him to be our government spending cut czar,
because what he did to
X.
After buying Twitter, and
I think he does that everywhere. Like I'm not going to spend money on stupid stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's just not worth it. So anyway, for those that do not pay attention to what's going on, the Harris campaign had a high of an approval rating, all this kind of stuff, immediately when they stole the nomination from Biden. Everything kind of came out really high, and it has been dropping steadily since then. Over and over and over again, just day after day, it's dropping. And one of the criticisms that the campaign has been getting is that she and Walz have been hiding from the media. Like, they haven't been anywhere visible. And so at the first inklings of this, she had a couple of interviews, softballs. Oprah was one of them. She went on to 60 Minutes.
Oprah, that was interesting because she came on and said she owns a Glock.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's a gun owner now. Big time.
Crazy.
And so,
and if you break into her house, she's going to shoot you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. And with her Glock, not her 9mm, not her whatever, not her Glock 19. My Glock.
I got you.
So they started doing some soft press, I would call it. So recorded interviews, nothing live. The Oprah deal, and there's another one that she did recently too, where she's clearly it's scripted. There's a teleprompter in front of her answering questions in front of some kind of a town hall, and like the Univision camera was panning and it caught the teleprompter, and because this was supposed to be an unscripted interview. But so there's been going more and more. That didn't help her, like the scripted stuff or the Oprah stuff. So the campaign's starting to panic, and they're like, yeah, well, you are going to have to get out and talk more and do more, and it is getting worse and worse. Like it's not helping. It's making things worse
For her.
her campaign,
For her administration. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. There's a buddy of mine that posted on Facebook the other day that his mother-in-law, it's always been a point of friction in the family because his mother-in-law was like this super liberal lady, and so they were watching a football game, and all these Harris ads kept popping up, and he's just, he's sitting over at the corner, he's just super uncomfortable, and then his mother-in-law puts the game on pause and just says, let's talk about politics for a second. And he's like, oh, what am I getting myself into? And she goes, all these years, I've been a Democrat, and she goes, I could not bring myself to vote for Harris. I had to vote for Trump. And so she goes, I just want to let you know that I'd already voted for Trump. And so I think that there's gonna, if those stories are similar, because like the last time he won, everybody's kind of quiet. The Trump voters didn't want to be associated with being Trump voters, and who knows, we might luck out.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But so some of the press has been running cover for her. CBS, 60 Minutes, they actually had a relatively tough interview in comparison to all the other stuff that she had been getting. But they ended up editing the response after the fact. So they aired the interview, and it did not look good. And then they started posting clips of the interview, and the answers had been edited. So we're going to try. Here's a little clip of that.
Well, Bill.
So I'll go back. This is the original question, and then right after that they play the edited one. So here's the original.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that...
So that was the real answer, and it's not good. She's choppy. She didn't even say anything. She said words. And here's the clips that 60 Minutes posted after the original airing, as if this is how the interview went.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need.
So they went and pulled an answer to a different question in the interview
And plugged it in.
and plugged it in behind the Netanyahu deal to make her look good. Like, if you depend on any media, legacy media, for your information, you're getting hosed. I mean, straight up lied to.
For this war to end.
Anyway, it's a disaster with there's so many more as well. But I got to mute this. So yeah, it's just getting worse. It's getting even worse. And when they're having to open themselves up for more interviews. And you look at Walz. So Walz got called out for lying about where he was. He said he was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre in China. And so the dude, well, he wasn't. Like, it was clear he was in the States. So when asked about that in the vice presidential debate, he said, "Oh, I'm a knucklehead." Right? That was his response. "Oh, I'm a knucklehead." Well, yeah, but you lied. You lied about where you were. "Oh, I'm a knucklehead. Sometimes I get dates wrong." Along those lines.
You lied.
So 60 Minutes asked him about that as well, and this is his response.
J.D. Vance, you said, "I'm a knucklehead at times." And I think you were referring to the time that you said that you were in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square unrest when you were not.
Yeah.
Is that kind of misrepresentation, isn't that more than just being a knucklehead?
I think folks know who I am, and I think they know the difference between someone expressing emotion, telling a story, getting a date wrong rather than a pathological liar like Donald Trump.
But I think it comes down to the question of whether you can be trusted to tell the truth.
Yeah, well, I can. I think I can. I will own up to being a knucklehead at times, but the folks closest to me know that I keep my word.
I mean, disaster. It just, and that's just a little pushback. I mean, if it was a hostile interviewer, like they wouldn't even, they would have attacked him because of that. You know, they're kind of soft there. So anyway, not going well for the campaign. They, I do want to call out similarity between one of our hard-headed hosts and Tim Walz. Do you want to guess? Is it you? Is it me? Or is it Matt?
Oh, it's not me. It's definitely Matt.
Yeah, it's Matt. 100% Matt. Matt, do you know what you guys have in common?
I do not know.
Yeah, well, other than the fibbing all the time, he Walz went on his pheasant hunt as a publicity stunt, by the way. It did not go well. They did not get any pheasants at all.
Did he shoot anybody in the butt?
He did not shoot anybody in the butt or the face. I don't even think he got a shot off. But here he is trying to load his shotgun, and it is very awkward. And well, this is kind of what prompted our top 3 hunting goofs. But he talks about his shotgun in this clip. So let me cue this up. The wonders of technology.
Governor, what kind of gun is it?
Hold on just a second.
And it never fits quite right. Never fits quite right. Just not quite right. How do you give it back?
He's trying to
Governor,
load
what
it.
kind of gun is it?
This is a Beretta A400. I bought it when I was shooting a lot of trap because it has a kind of their patented thing, a kickoff. So when you get old, it doesn't hurt your shoulder as much.
They were found.
So Matt and Governor Walz has the same shotgun. That's your shotgun, isn't it?
No, absolutely not. I have a Beretta Excel,
It's based on the A400 frame.
but it's not an A400.
It's pretty
an
doggone
Excel.
close. Do you have a Beretta anything, Troy?
No.
Yeah. He and Matt. So
Troy doesn't even have enough money to buy 3 arrows.
but anyway,
True story.
the right wing, and I'll criticize the right wingers here. So that if you heard the clicking in the background of that clip, that dude is struggling trying to get ammo in or out of his gun. I'm not sure what he was trying to do there, but it wasn't going right. And they were talking about how he's a fake. You know, he doesn't even know how to do his shotgun. Blah 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 blah.
What service of the military was he in?
He was in the National Guard for 20 some odd years, and that doesn't mean you know how to use a shotgun.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But I've also, as an avid hunter and knowing how to use all of my shotguns, have run into a scenario where something wasn't working right.
Well, I've
and
gotten
you're fumbling and fiddling with it.
Gotten a shell jammed in the.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't make too much out of this, but then they were all like, "Oh, here we go again. Walz doesn't it?" But then you go back and some people that were defending him, and one of the guys is a conservative hunter, was like, "This is not the one to go after him on." Number one, they've had decades of him doing the governor's hunt and he went on special hunts as a representative, and like the camo he's wearing, not the camo, but the hunter's orange he's wearing is his. You could tell. I mean, it's just the dude. He's definitely hunted before, and naturally, if he did a whole lot of trap shooting, you don't unload your gun in trap shooting. You put one shell in and you shoot it. Like it's not like you're having to fiddle around. But and there were some people that were criticizing him because you can't put that many shells in your gun. You're only supposed to have 2 in the. You're like, no, he's pheasant hunting. You're allowed to do more shells than that. And so anyway, but
Well, if you're hunting private, if you're hunting raised birds, you can have more than that. If you're hunting wild birds, you can only have 2.
no, that's not true. Not in the state of Kansas. You can have as many as long as you're not on a wetland protected area. You can hunt pheasants with no plug in your gun in the state of Kansas. I don't know about Minnesota where he was when he did the hunt, but you don't have to have a plug gun for pheasant. You do for migratory birds, but a pheasant isn't a migratory bird. So
Oh well, so that's where I got in trouble, but that'll come up in the top 3.
yeah. Oh yeah, I was there for that. Anyway, so then we have I've got a couple of so Vance and Trump. So Trump's been doing like this press tour of random podcasts, the big podcasts. There's a rumor he's going to be on Rogan, that which will be a big deal. The largest podcast out there. He had already been on Sean Ryan's podcast. He's done Theo Vaughn. He's just going in. So now Harris is trying to do the same thing, but not like Rogan's invited her. All these other people have invited her. She hasn't gone, but she did that Charlemagne, the God podcast, or with the Breakfast Club or whatever.
Never heard of him.
It kind of he's a New York guy.
Yeah, I listened to the one Dave Ramsey had Trump on.
Yeah.
And he asked Harris to come, but she hadn't responded apparently.
Well, one of the Trump specifically said Andrew Schultz, he's a comedian. He had him on with a couple other guys, and they were like goofing around. It was kind of funny. I didn't watch the whole podcast; just watched some clips. But he said that Barron Trump listens to all these people. His son, and he's like, I didn't know who any of you guys are, but my son listens to you guys, and he thought it'd be a good idea that I could get in front of a different audience by coming on your shows. And he's riffing, like he's not, prompted. There's not special. They're just kind of goofing off. And I thought that was pretty cool. And Vance is going. So Trump seems to be going on the interviews of random media or current media, if you will. I think podcasting is like the source of news now, like not the CBSs of the world,
mainstream.
But Vance is going on CNN. He's going on ABC. He's going on CBS. He's going into the enemy territory, if you will.
Right.
And he was in this is a pretty good little clip here of how good he does with the press and pushing back. He may not agree with him, but this is how he did it, and it's pretty cool. Let's see here.
Apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha,
So she's Martha from ABC is going after him and Trump for saying that there are Venezuelan gangs in the apartment complexes of Colorado. And she's fighting back saying,
right?
Yeah, she's fighting back, but there's only a handful. So why are you blowing this out of proportion?
you hear yourself. Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border. Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem than anything else here. We've got to get American communities in a safe space again. And unfortunately, when you let people in by the millions, most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris, 94 executives.
So anyway, can you hear yourself? You're literally saying it's okay. You know, only a few apartment complexes in the U.S. have been taken over by Venezuelan
It's only
gangs.
a few. Well, let's let her move next door to those apartment complexes.
So I appreciate that level of pushback. It's great. There was another one with the New York Times reporter Lulu Garcia Navarro. I won't play you that audio clip, but she started ripping into him about immigrants and saying if we didn't have illegal immigrants, we won't have houses built because they're the labor that builds all of our houses. And his response was very sarcastic. He said, "You're right, but you know, in the housing boom post World War II, none of those houses were built because we didn't have illegal immigrants here to build them. It's like we know we can do it. People can do it, but you bring in all this labor in here real cheap, then." They're going to take the jobs away from the citizens. So,
yeah,
it's been really interesting watching the press. Anyway,
yeah, I recently listened to Tucker Carlson's 2 latest episodes.
Yeah,
it's really good. One of them's he interviews Harmeet Dillon, which I didn't know who she was, but Do you know who she is?
Never heard of her.
Well, she is. She's a lawyer, a San Francisco lawyer that's kind of been around Harris and read everything that she's read and just knows her background and history just from being a lawyer in the same city or the same state where she was attorney general and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And she gives a very interesting, like, beginnings of Harris all the way to her rise to where she is now.
Yeah.
And everything that she's done to get there.
Every one or everything?
Both.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
Both.
But it's documented.
Yeah, it's documented.
It's known.
And she goes through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, and it's very, very interesting. And then the most recent one launched yesterday. Mark Halperin.
Yeah.
He's a journalist.
Yep.
Been a journalist since 1987. But he, and I really like listening to that one because he's not really a conservative, but he's not way far left either. He's pretty moderate journalism, just wants to report the truth in the news. And he's got a very good, what's the word I'm looking for?
Point of view?
Yeah, got a good point of view or perspective from both sides and kind of gives some good insight into what he thinks is going to happen and what could happen, you know, the next month or so. It's really interesting.
It is. It's fascinating. It's right around the corner. I'm gonna have to early vote though because I'm gonna be out of the country when the election on election day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I need to get on that. I don't know if I've ever early voted before. Matt, have you early voted before?
I have.
What do I have to do?
You just go vote.
Where?
There's at your polling place. There should be like a main polling place.
I bet
that
it's
you
at
can go
the Sedgwick County Extension Office. I bet that's where they have it.
Because when I go early vote, I have to go to the courthouse in Reno.
Oh, okay. Is that in Kingman? No, Kingman's in Kingman County.
That's in Hutch.
Yeah. Okay.
But and then I did a mail-in vote when I was in Iraq in 2004.
Oh, okay. They're not gonna, they're not gonna send that to me. I'm not in theater anymore.
You made it back.
So where are you going to be on election day, and can you get back once the country is burning?
Yes.
Or are they going to let people in?
I'll be able to get back.
Just come through the border wall.
Yeah, I can come up through the southern border.
Come up through the southern border. You won't get stopped.
Yeah, no, I'll probably get free health care and all kinds of stuff as soon as I cross that way.
$10,000.
There's a pretty funny video about that.
Yeah.
Here's $30,000.
Yeah.
Go buy yourself a house. Do you have a phone? Oh yeah, here's a phone.
Paid for by your taxpayer.
Oh man,
it's crazy. So anyway, it's getting crazy, and the interviews are ramping up. Her poll numbers are going down. There's I watched a couple other clips. They're starting to openly say how much of a disaster it is to put her in front of a microphone, and so
like the left is saying that.
Yeah. Like the view, and then those that aren't criticizing her are criticizing the people that support Trump. And like Sonny, what's her face from The View, like literally mentioned the crazy black men that vote for Trump. Like she is just attacking anyone that doesn't align with her political views, which I think is alienating more of the moderate people that could be swinging one way or the other. That they're, when you take the gloves off and let everybody see who you really are, you don't want to be a part of that. And really, and we were talking about this a few episodes ago, we've always, it seems left and right, at least from our political participation perspective. And really, this isn't a left or right election. This is really a moderate and left election. So, you got a presidential candidate out there that is not, currently, he is for abortion, limited, but for abortion. Now he wasn't his first run. He's got cabinet members that he's saying that he's going to appoint that are not Republican. In RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. He's got a lot of independent thinkers that have not ever aligned with the right, like Joe Rogan and a lot of these other folks that are saying, you know, we just can't go with Harris. And the administration that we currently have is not so far right that these moderate people they're okay with going on Trump's side because he's not right. He's not far right. So we truly have a moderate versus a far, far left. And we know that Harris as a senator was the most liberal senator ever from a voting perspective. And we know that Walz is the most radical governor, liberal governor that is in our modern time that has existed. So it is truly the far left against the center in this election. So we're going to see.
You could
how
say
it goes.
the Democratic Party at this point is shooting their shot.
The far left. There are a lot of people in the Democratic Party, I think, that don't. They're not all the way left. They're not all this. But
I'm saying the leadership within the
transgender.
party is far left.
Yeah.
You know, not their
No,
not
I'm
their
with you.
base.
You're right.
You know, not their voter base, but they're shooting their shot, trying to get it as extreme as they can.
Yeah, and it may backfire on them, and that's if
I hope it does.
Our candidates are all still alive come election day. There's still
There's still
third,
time.
Well, there's the third. You heard about the third, and there's a lot of gray area around it, but there apparently wasn't a third assassination plot that was foiled over the weekend.
Yeah, I would call it a plot. I've heard a lot of people say attempt, and there wasn't an attempt. But
Yeah,
it was
a plot.
It may have been a plot.
A plot by someone who is coming in, who was in close contact with him. But that's all. I'm a little bit more skeptical about this one.
Man.
So anyway.
Wild. Yeah, and what do you think about the voters that are just like, what? They think Trump's the devil. And like they'll vote for anybody other than Trump.
Yeah, I think they bought into the hype.
Yeah.
You know, the guy's been a president. So when they say he's gonna imprison all of his opponents, like he didn't. Like he's been a president and he didn't do that. Or he's gonna burn up the Constitution. He was president and he didn't do that. Like, and if he's as bad as you say he is, he's not gonna fake it for this first term and then do it for his second. Oh, I gotta wait 4 more years. No,
I gotta wait until they know I'm gonna stay in, and then they can't never remove me.
So I think they're a little bit far removed from reality. Just a little bit. I have a buddy of mine that's at his in-laws' place in the northeast part of the country right now, and they're extremely liberal. I didn't know how liberal they were, or how I want to say liberal. I didn't know how big of fans that people could be to support Harris and Walz or any political candidate this way. Custom shoes, Harris Walz shoes came in the mail while he's been up there visiting.
Shoes. Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, because you got some Saints shoes at one time
LSU
for Christmas.
shoes
Yeah,
once,
LSU
yeah.
shoes. I can see, people get custom shoes, but then they're working through the Walz Harris recipe cookbook that's on one of their campaign websites.
Oh my God.
And they're cooking like Tim Walz tater tot hot dish with ground turkey meat.
Whatever. Here's a question I have.
But I mean, that's how far off the edge do you have to be? Like, we're going to get together and use the cookbook for our political candidates.
Well, and then you got the far right that's got all the Trump bobbleheads and the Trump.
Look, a Trump bobblehead or a Trump flag on the back of your truck is a lot different than eating ground turkey meat tater tot casserole. That's over the edge.
Or that big pot of greens.
That you cooked in the bathtub.
I'm sure there's some whacked out right stuff too about Trump that you can purchase. But yeah, that's either way you look at it, it's off the
Ground
wall.
turkey meat tater tot casserole, Tim Walz's personal recipe. We're cooking it leading up to the election.
So, what was my question?
Shoot me if I ever get that crazy about a political candidate.
Yeah, like
just shoot me if I start cooking things with ground turkey meat.
the question I have for people that are so determined to get Harris and Walz in office, and the ones that are voting for them, is like, what do you think is gonna be better about your life?
Everything. Justice will have been served. It's not
because you can't look at anything that Walz or Harris has said, because they don't talk about what they're going to do.
No, well, they do. What they have been talking about, and I've got a clip on this. We don't need to listen to it, but Trump said, I want to remove income tax from tips, cash tips.
Yeah.
And you had a CBS report on that, on how that's the dumbest thing in the world. We're going to lose so much income as a country, blah, 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 blah. And then Harris says it 2 weeks later. The same guy was like, oh, I could see how this is going to be really good for the working class. And people have they've lost their mind. They're not connecting reality with their perceptions of reality, and that's what's scary. And I hope I probably was there on the right when I was younger, but I'm not anymore. Where everything that they do is good, and everything that the other people do is bad. Maybe that's how it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready to hear about some hunting goofs.
All right. Yeah. Let's go. I'll go first.
All right.
Number 3.
Fire away.
Forgetting that my waders had holes in them and then wearing them duck hunting.
Was it like
when you had to stand in the swamp?
Or in the first hunt of the season? Or was it like you had a hole on one Saturday and then you went a week and then went back out and it's like, why did I didn't know
I don't
that?
remember. It was probably the first hunt.
Yeah.
Of the season. But yeah, that's never fun. Even if it's just a little pinhole. Because then you sit there for 3 hours. Yeah. Not fun.
Not when it's cold.
Yeah.
At all.
And then number 2 is when you get a bullet jammed in your rifle, like a semi-automatic rifle.
Yeah.
You get it jammed in there, and you can't get a second shot off at the little 6-point that you're staring down.
Why did you need a second shot?
Well, because
Troy needs 3. It's 3 shot.
There's a 3 shot.
That's true, 3 shot. I don't remember if I was 12 or 13, somewhere around there. But I was up in a tree stand, like 20 feet off the ground. And I shot at one almost straight down.
Yeah.
And it ran off. I missed. And I went to get it in my sights. I saw it again. It was probably about 50 yards away. Had it dialed in, locked in, and I couldn't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the heck? So I looked, and the bolt action was like halfway back, and the shell was sticking out of it.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's wrong. The shell had been ejected, but the other one wasn't feeding in.
Yeah. You probably didn't have the magazine like slammed all the way up.
Yeah. I don't know what happened, but I couldn't get it undone. And when my dad came to pick me up in the 3-wheeler, he was like, "Did you get one?" I was like, "No." I told him the story, and he was like, "Well, let's see that gun." So when I got down, he tried to do it with his arm. He couldn't do it.
Yeah.
He had to lean it up against the tree and use the back of his heel to get that thing.
Oh yeah,
kicked
work the
out.
action on it.
Yeah, and
that made you feel a little bit better.
It did.
Yeah,
it did. But
you had already let him down by shooting and not killing a deer.
Exactly.
Because could you imagine Noah, like, oh, Noah, go sit at the tree and kill a deer, and you hear a shot?
Yeah, you're like, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Especially if it was one. So my dad, anytime we were on a few deer leases when we were growing up in Louisiana, and you could just be sitting in the camp, and if you heard one rifle shot, just pow, and then nothing, he's like, oh yeah, that guy hit that deer. But if you heard like pow, 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 and he's like, oh, that deer got away. It's just kind of, so that one shot, you're thinking, oh, if there's one shot, you drop that deer deader in a doornail. And lo and behold,
nope,
that wasn't the case.
Yeah. And number 1 is when I brought 2 arrows.
That's a huge.
And
blunder.
I don't have to tell that story again.
We've told that story so many times on this podcast. It's we should have named this podcast like Spine Shank or something like that. It's or fake trophy.
Shank.
Something like fake trophy.
Fake trophy.
Sporting Clays.
Yeah.
Matt, what you got, man?
man, they're so few and far between. I don't pull too many boneheaded moves in the field, actually. So this one was a little bit difficult for me because I make a point not to be stupid.
Hey, a blunder or a gaff or a goof isn't because you're stupid necessarily.
And that temporarily dumb. Yeah, absolutely. That's how everything happens. So I know one, and I don't know the order because I'm hoping to come up with another one as we go along here. But one of the few times that
I know one. Is this probably the one you're going to bring up? I've only hunted with you a handful of times.
Yeah.
And one of those times you were busted by the law.
Yeah, that's not it.
Okay.
So number 3 is one of the very few times that I've been duck hunting. Because I've only probably been, maybe 2 handfuls of times in my life. And you get up super, super early at 2 o'clock in the morning, you drive out, it's cold, and you're waiting to draw for a spot. And so you get in the boat, we head out, and we're getting ready to set up our decoys. And so we got to break ice with pickaxes to get the spread set up. And while I'm doing that, I got my waders on, and this is back when I had legs, just so y'all know. And I had my boat, or I had my shotgun, resting on the side of the boat. And I had another group of decoys that I need to go grab. And I was like, well, it's cold, and it's just really like the bottom was really muddy, like where your feet are sticking.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to walk around the boat to grab those decoys. I'm just going to jump up over the edge and grab them. And I did that. And when I did that, my gun, bloop, right to the bottom.
Yeah.
And it was, so it was just about chest deep water. And so now I've got to actually
go in,
figure out how I'm going to retrieve this shotgun from the bottom. And so I finagled some hooks to where I could actually kind of grab it because you couldn't see it.
Right.
And so I was doing a lot of feeling around and finally got the barrel in my hand, a little bit of water down my waders, and got the gun up. And to this day, that gun still has like whatever type of mud that was on the bottom just chewed that stock up. And so there's like this print on the stock of that gun that reminds me of being dumb.
870? Was it an 870? Remington 870?
Yeah, Remington 870.
And you hunted with it. You shot with it that day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I love about those guns.
You can't kill those guns. Those things just keep running and running and running.
Yeah. No doubt.
And then not necessarily me, but I was a part of it. We were hunting in British Columbia for black bear. And this was my very first hunt with Wounded Warrior Outdoors. And, had a bear out there at 280 yards, and ended up, had to make a couple of moves to get this bear shot. Well, I shot it, and it ran off, and it crashed in the woods, and they could see that, Ron and Robin, who were my 2 guides, high-fiving. They saw it down in the tree line, and so they're walking towards it, and they're just kind of standing over it, high-fiving. They're like, all right, well, let's go ahead and start dragging this thing back. And they didn't realize that the bear wasn't dead. And so they went to grab it, and that bear jumped up and charged. And as it charged, both of those guys were carrying 45-70s, and boom, boom. I mean, almost simultaneously just shot this bear and killed it. But kind of a boneheaded move as they're dragging it back. They're like, yeah, we definitely should have approached that with a little bit more caution.
Absolutely.
And it could be attributed to me not making the best of shots, but it was still dying. It just wasn't there yet. So I was a part of that. And then number 1 would be that situation that we talked about earlier. I was out on a pheasant hunt and took the plug out of my gun because there are just so many birds. And I was like, I'm tired of loading 2 shells every single time, or 3. And so took it out, put it in the overhead compartment on my truck, and then went hunting. Didn't think about it at all. And then hunting out there with you, Chet, for dove in the field, and then the law comes by and does a plug check, and then I'm
state ground. Yeah. It
and
wasn't like it was a target rich environment for the game warden to show up.
Yeah, and handed him my gun like there was not a care in the world. Here you go, bud. And he puts one shell in, two shells in, and then starts that third, and like, oh, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
And but he was fortunate enough, or I was fortunate enough that he wasn't a jerk, and
he was somewhat jerky.
Warning.
He was jerky, but the long walk to the truck had softened his heart. The hunting field was like I don't know, a half mile, quarter mile from the
it was probably half
mile from the parking area, but there was a road to the field, and so when we get there, I'm like, I'm not just going to park right here and then carry all of our stuff all the way down there. We're just going to drive down to the field and drop all our stuff off. I'll drop Matt off, stools, shells, all the stuff. I had some mojos, some spinning wings and whatnot. And so we drive down there, and I literally drop them off in the field, and then I drive back and park my truck and then walk up. And that game warden was looking at Matt, like sitting there with no legs, and he was like, "Hey, he said, oh, he didn't have his ticket book with him. He's like, I have to write you a ticket for not having a plug. Can you walk back to the truck? Can you walk back to the parking area?" And Matt was like, "Well, I got out here, didn't I?" Like, cause he's a little put off. Matt, no offense, Matt, but you have an expectation to not get tickets just cause, you gave your half of your body to your country and, leave me alone kind of attitude. And
I'll do what I want.
That's right. This dude was like, he was like, and Matt was like, I got out here, didn't I? And he's like, oh, okay. And then we started walking back, and he's like, can I help you carry anything? And Matt's like, no, I got it. Just like, and so the further and further we walked, and we got back to the truck, and he's just like, I'm just going to write you a warning is what he told Matt. And do you still have that picture, Matt?
I've got the picture of me on the side of the truck, standing on the side of the truck.
Yeah, I snapped a picture of him with the game warden with his ticket book out, and I don't have it anymore, but I'm glad you have it. I'd like to get a copy of that.
Yeah, I got that, and then it was kind of funny as we started walking back, and he's just like, well, hand me that stuff, man. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. And by the end of it, he was carrying all my stuff.
Yeah.
As well. So it was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's classic. And fortunately, I was legal, because I'd have gotten a ticket and Matt wouldn't have. That's how it would have gone.
Yep.
All right, I'll go. I had when I first moved out here, I didn't have many connections on hunting. It took me a while to find people that hunted in Kansas, which I thought was rare, but that's how it was. And I had a guy that I worked with that had some land out by Granola, kind of not too far, in your neck of the woods, Matt, not all the way out to Longton. But he let me hunt out there. He had a 6-acre lake on his property. And I went out there and did some hunting. I brought my dad one time. I brought your dad one time. They were up. But then another time I went out there by myself. And I was walking around. The pond was kind of low. And I was walking around where the creek fed into it. And stepped off in some mud, like quicksand type situation. And went past my knees immediately. Oh, wow. And then the more I tried to work out, the worse it got. And I had enough, I was just thinking,
this is it.
I don't know if I'm ever getting out of this. And there's nothing. There's no trees, no. I'm like, I'm toast, And so then I started working, and I was able to get my foot out of my waders. You couldn't come out with your waders. So the wader leg was down in there. And so I had a sock and I put that knee in the mud and had to lay down and get my other leg
belly
out. It was a
crawl out.
disaster.
Did you lose your waders in the
No, I was
quicksand?
able to pull them out without my legs in there. But I was muddy and out of breath. I didn't have any water. I mean, it was a disaster. But nobody was there to make fun of me because I was by myself, which is not necessarily the best thing to do. Go duck hunting by yourself.
No.
So another one was on Cheney Lake, back when the lake was low, like it is now. I was out there hunting with my buddy Davin, and we were getting into some birds. It was really nice, and I had wounded a duck, and so I started to chase it down. Just kind of walking as fast as you can in the water, and the duck couldn't fly, but it could swim. So what was happening? I was walking as fast as I can to try to close the gap. Well, the duck's just swimming. Just enough where the gap's not closing, and I'm just getting further and further into the lake, a little bit deeper and deeper. And every now and then I'd just go real fast and then shoot and see if I couldn't kill. And I'm just going and going. And I look back, and I'm way far away from the blind, and I'm over waist deep of water, but the lake is so low, it's just not getting deep. And so I'm like, well, I gotta really, I'm going to hustle and I'm going to get this thing. So I just, as fast as you can walk when you're in over your waist in water. And I take a step and my knee hit something, like not my foot, my knee. And I was like, oh shoot. And I'm starting to tumble over. So I take my other leg and I'm like gonna go as high as I can just in case it's like a log, I'll be able to clear it and step over. Cause my body weight's already carrying me. And so this leg's coming over and it hits it, whatever it is, it's tall. So I go in like face first, face plant into the water, and I have to roll over on my back and like back pedal for my legs to clear the obstruction, whatever it was. And it's 14 degrees this day. A cold front had just come in, and I get up and I immediately take my coat off. I unzip it. I don't take it all the way off, but I unzip all the zippers on my coat, and then I jack all the shells out of my shotgun, which was an 870 and just under the submerged water because I didn't want a frozen loaded shotgun. And I start booking it back thinking like something's going to happen to me, like some kind of hypothermia. And you were able to feel that cold water just work all the way down my waders, like ice cold water. And so we get back and Davin's like, are you okay, man? And I'm like, I think I'm okay. And I take my coat off and it's just frozen. It's like a frozen block. It won't bend. And I take my gloves off. My beard is just frozen. I had ice everywhere. Like everything that went underwater just froze. And we were in the ducks though, and I had one of those 4-in-1 jackets or whatever, and I didn't have the insert in it. It was still in my blind bag, so I take my coat off and put the insert on. It's dry, and by that time my body heat had warmed up most of the water that was inside of my waders. And I'm like, David, I think I can hunt. And he's like, dude, I can't carry you out of here. So you either don't think you either can hunt or you're not sure. And if you're not sure, we're leaving right now because I can't drag you out of here, And I'm like, okay, I think I'm good, So we go out there, get back in the blind, and ducks come back in and light in the decoys. And he's like, "Hey, ready?" And we're like, "Okay, yeah, I'll shoot first." And then he's like, "Okay." So I get on the bird, and he's like, "Shoot." I'm pulling the trigger. It's frozen. Nothing will happen. So we have to hang my gun up, and then we shared his gun for the rest of the hunt because the trigger was frozen, the safety was frozen, everything was frozen, all the water frozen in the shotgun. But we ended up killing a lot of birds that day. It was a lot of fun, and he was a great friend to allow me to shoot every other pass at the ducks. But I went swimming on a 14-degree day in the lake.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that one.
And then
I think I know your last one.
I don't know.
We'll see.
You probably don't. Unlike my current self, when I was younger, I was not a good shot with a rifle. And I missed a lot of deer when I was younger. A lot. and mostly had iron sights, no scopes or anything like that, a rifle with iron sights. And I remember shooting at quite a few deer. And it wasn't like Kansas where that would happen all at one day. Like, I missed a doe and then a buck came out and I missed that. And then, I see a lot of deer in Kansas. In Louisiana, like you may get 2 or 3 chances at a deer a year, at least where we were.
Yeah, where we were too.
Yeah. So I was drawing blank for a couple of years, but still seeing deer and missing them. And my longest, my dad told this story on our original podcast that we had back in 2015. But my longest miss was about 1,000 yards. And because he sat me on this gas line, just mowed, nothing around. And he's like, if you see a deer, shoot it. Like, that's just, whatever you see. I can see forever. And I was sitting there bored as all get out after hours, and I see 2 what I thought were dogs come out on the end, like as far as I could see. And then I looked through them with my scope, and I'm like, oh, those are 2 doe. And man, I cut down on them. And my dad was in the woods, not on the gas line, but he could hear that I was shooting. And I shot 3 times, I think, at those deer.
So your dad went, he missed.
Yeah. It's like, not happening. Anyway, it was, so I had a reputation with a couple of, as a kid, like, and at some point they were thinking, I don't even know if that kid's seeing anything. I think he may just be shooting and saying he missed because he got bored and he just wanted to shoot stuff. But I promise you, I was really not that good of a shot. I know it's hard to believe, Matt.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I missed twice. That's it.
Your first 2 shots, and then you hit it on the third?
That one I told you about earlier, that I missed that, and then I couldn't hit because the gun was jammed.
Yeah.
And then my dad and I were driving the old Cherokee Chief.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Uh-huh.
Through the brush, through the woods in Mississippi at his old hunting lease out there.
Yeah.
And I had the gun just hanging out the window because you can stop and just shoot.
Yeah.
And so we were going through, and we jumped this huge buck. I mean, in my mind, it's like 18 point.
Right. Massive.
Who knows how big it was? It was big though. But it took one bounce, and when it landed, I shot. And it all happened like so fast.
Right. And
my dad's like, "Get it!" And I shot, and it bounced, and it kept jumping, and like we got out and looked for blood, but
nothing.
Yeah,
you're the greatest passenger seat shooter though, because you're left-handed.
I am, and I shot when Jordan and I were out at our lease a few years ago. I shot a coyote in the snow at, I think it was 120 yards. We paced it off, and we were moving, and the coyote was moving.
Yeah,
and I rolled that joker up.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were you thinking about when I almost got crushed by ice?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not a blunder. That was a near-death experience.
When you ended up like Matt.
Yeah, I almost lost my legs on a duck hunt.
Yeah.
But that's for another day.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Matt, can you believe that I wasn't that good of a shot?
Did you not hear me?
No, what'd you say?
I said that is actually very believable. I see it all the time.
See it all the time.
Yeah, I don't care what you're shooting. Shotguns, pistols, rifles, you suck.
Jeez Louise. I bet you can't wait till we get out to another competition and realize that I'm better.
You know I can't. And but here's what I will say though is it's so funny, back in the old day, having those, having the old guys teach you to shoot, or when you'd zero your weapon, because I was in the same boat. I'd go and I never got a deer. I mean, I think I was probably, because like I said, I didn't grow up hunting with my dad, so it was my neighbor that took me, and we didn't do a lot of deer hunting. We did a lot of bird and stuff like that. But so my first deer hunt, I had no idea what to do. I went to the pawn shop. I bought my own gun. So, I was, well, no, I guess I borrowed one, but sighting it in, it was like, oh yeah, you're hitting right. Well, the wind pushed that one. And I'm like, well, we're shooting at 100 yards, and you're a kid, so you just kind of listen, and so
Yeah.
that's kind of how you learn to sight in your gun and stuff like that. And then you actually learn to shoot, and you're like, the wind doesn't affect that bullet at 100 yards at all,
You're
like
just
zero.
that bad of a
So
shot.
yeah, you just you're either you're doing something wrong, and I just remember all the times that those old guys used to tell me, oh, the wind, the wind pushed it, or the wind got that one,
Yeah.
and they'd miss, and it's like, oh, the wind, and it's like, well, I never saw a shot over 100 yards, and
Right.
just kind of tells you that they really didn't know how to shoot.
Right. Yeah, I definitely didn't know how to shoot. My dad was if you could hit a paper plate at 150 yards, you can kill a deer. Especially if how the old cheap paper plates
Plate.
they had the flat part in the middle, and then they had the one that's crinkled on the edge where it kind of raises up.
yeah.
If you could hit that flat part, like, oh yeah, that's a heart long shot. Easy. That's a dead deer. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of it was just he didn't want to use so much ammo because I burned through it shooting at live animals. Maybe, who knows? You got a good word for us?
I do. It comes from Philippians 4:6. This is Paul talking to the Philippians. He says, what you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. So whatever happens in the election, just practice the things of the Lord. And peace will be with you. That's all we got for you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Hardheaded Podcast. Don't forget to share this podcast with others to help us get the word out.
Also, if you haven't yet, please rate and review the show. This helps our podcast show up in other people's suggested shows that may or may not have listened to us before.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.